On February 14th, 1987, Gary Horvath punched his time card at Lundgren Plastics for the last time. The card showed 10:47 p.m., shift change, same as every Saturday for 11 years. At 11:23 p.m., the injection molding line in Building C went silent. The company ruled it equipment malfunction. OSHA signed off within 6 weeks. Case closed. But they never explained why Horvath's time card was found in his locker, punched out at 11:15, 8 minutes before the accident that killed him. They never explained why a man who'd worked injection molding for a decade would climb inside a hydraulic press during a production cycle. And they never explained why 3 other workers punched out at exactly 11:15 that night, then punched back in at 11:31. The official report called it tragic. The union called it unavoidable. Nobody called it what it was. Donna Kramer had spent 9 years in university archives before anyone let her near a factory floor. Labor history, they called it. The study of people who built things, written by people who never had. She'd published 2 books on Midwest manufacturing decline, interviewed 300 former line workers, and learned that the real stories lived in the gaps. The forms that didn't match, the signatures that appeared twice, the overtime that existed on paper but not in memory. The Lundgren file arrived in March 1994, 7 years after Horvath died. The company had folded in 1991, and their records were being donated to the state archive. 43 boxes of time cards, production logs, union grievances, and insurance claims. Routine processing, they told her, sort and catalog. But Donna noticed something in the first hour. February 1987 was missing its Saturday night sheets. All of them. The boxes told a story of ordinary decline. Lundgren Plastics had made dashboard components for 3 automakers, employed 400 people at its peak, and died the way most Indiana factories died. Slowly, then all at once. But the gaps in the records weren't ordinary. Donna found time cards for every shift in February 1987 except Saturdays. She found OSHA inspection reports for January and March, but nothing for February. She found union grievance forms numbered sequentially, except for a jump from 87-041 to 87-049. 8 missing grievances in the month Gary Horvath died.
That's not careless filing. That's selection.
She pulled the personnel file for Horvath, Gary J. 11 years of employment, 3 commendations, 0 disciplinary actions, and a life insurance policy, company provided, that had been upgraded from $20,000 to $100,000 6 weeks before he died. The union contact was listed in the archive's acquisition paperwork. Earl Whitmore, former shop steward, now retired to a trailer park outside Marion. Donna called 3 times before he answered.
State Archive, you said?
We received the Lundgren records. I'm cataloguing them for preservation.
Didn't know there was anything worth preserving.
Mr. Whitmore, I'm looking at February 1987. There seem to be some missing documents.
The line went quiet. Donna could hear a television in the background, the low murmur of a game show.
February 87. That was a long time ago.
A worker died that month. Gary Horvath.
I remember Gary.
His file shows an insurance upgrade 6 weeks before the accident.
Lady, I don't work there anymore. Nobody does.
He hung up. But he hadn't said he didn't know anything. He'd said he didn't work there anymore. Donna wrote that down. The Lundgren plant still stood on County Road 15, 3 miles east of Kokomo. The windows were boarded, the parking lot cracked with weeds, but the sign remained, faded blue letters against a yellow background that had once meant jobs. Donna drove out on the Saturday, the same day of the week Horvath had died. The building was locked, but the employee entrance had been pried open years ago, probably by scrappers looking for copper. Inside, the factory floor stretched silent under a cathedral ceiling of exposed beams and dormant conveyors. Building C was in the back, the injection molding section. Donna found the press that had killed Gary Horvath by looking for the one that had been replaced. Newer paint, different manufacturer's plate. Everything around it was original 1970s equipment. This machine had been installed in late 1987, after the accident.
They didn't just repair it, they replaced the whole thing.
The replacement press had a serial number. Donna copied it down, along with the manufacturer, Engel, out of Austria. Back at the archive, she found the company's equipment purchase records in Box 31. The Engel press had been ordered on March 2, 1987, 16 days after Horvath's death, and installed on April 14th. Rush delivery. The purchase order listed the reason as equipment failure, production continuity. But the original press, the one that killed Horvath, had passed inspection 2 months earlier. No mechanical issues noted.
Hydraulic system in excellent condition. Pressure gauges calibrated. Safety interlocks tested and functional.
She found the OSHA accident report in a separate box, misfiled with workers' compensation claims. The report blamed operator error. Horvath had allegedly bypassed the safety interlock to clear a jam. But the interlock on the original machine had been tested and functional. Someone would have had to disable it. Earl Whitmore's trailer was a single wide on blocks, the aluminum siding streaked with rust. Donna arrived unannounced, figuring a phone call would just get her hung up on again. A man in his 60s answered the door, face creased deep as plowed earth, wearing a Purdue sweatshirt that had seen better decades.
You're the archive lady.
I drove out to the plant yesterday.
Nothing to see out there.
They replaced the press that killed Gary Horvath. Ordered it 16 days after he died. Rush delivery from Austria.
Earl's hand tightened on the doorframe. His knuckles went white.
Lady, I told you.
The original press passed inspection 2 months before the accident. Safety interlocks tested and functional. Someone disabled them.
You should go home.
Mr. Whitmore, 8 union grievances are missing from February 1987.
I said go home.
He closed the door, but Donna saw his hand shaking before it shut. The State Industrial Commission kept copies of all OSHA reports. Donna requested the Lundgren file through official channels and waited 3 weeks. What arrived was 32 pages, heavily redacted. Entire paragraphs blacked out. Witness statements reduced to names and dates. But they'd missed something on page 19. A handwritten note in the margin, partially visible under the redaction. See supplemental second shift conflicts.
I'm looking for supplemental materials referenced in OSHA case 87-1847. That would be in the original file. The original file is redacted. Then the supplemental materials were probably part of the redaction. Who authorized the redactions? Let me check. Looks like it was sealed as part of a civil settlement. Horvath family versus Lundgren Plastics, 1988.
A settlement. The family had sued and then agreed to seal the evidence. Donna wrote down the case number. The civil settlement was filed in Howard County Court. Sealed, as the clerk had said, but the docket sheet was public record. Horvath family versus Lundgren Plastics, Inc. Filed June 1987. Settled September 1987. 3 months from lawsuit to settlement. Fast for a wrongful death case. The settlement amount wasn't listed, but the docket showed something else. A third party had intervened in the case. Local 847 of the Plastics and Allied Workers Union. They'd filed a motion to seal the proceedings. The motion was granted the same day it was filed.
Who was the judge?
Judge Harold Brennan. He's retired now.
And the union's attorney?
Looks like Raymond Sisk. He's still practicing. Got an office downtown.
Donna took down the address. The union had wanted the case sealed. That meant the union had something to hide. Raymond Sisk's office was above a insurance agency on Main Street, the kind of second-floor walk-up that handled divorces, DUIs, and workers' comp claims. The man himself was 70 if he was a day, thin as a rail, with liver spots on his hands and a handshake like wet paper.
State Archive, you said? What's your interest in old union business?
I'm cataloguing the Lundgren records. The Horvath settlement keeps coming up.
That was sealed for a reason.
The union filed the sealing motion. You filed it.
I represented Local 847's interests. Standard procedure in wrongful death cases. Protects the family from publicity.
The family or the union?
Miss Kramer, that case was settled fairly. The family received compensation. The company accepted responsibility.
The company blamed operator error. That's not accepting responsibility.
I think we're done here.
Donna didn't move.
What were the second shift conflicts?
Sisk's face changed when she said it. Not much. He was too old a lawyer for that. But enough. A flicker behind the eyes, a tightening at the corners of his mouth.
Where did you hear that phrase?
It was in the OSHA report. Handwritten in the margin. See supplemental second shift conflicts.
That report was supposed to be fully redacted.
Someone missed a spot.
The old lawyer was quiet for a long moment. Through the window, Donna could hear traffic on Main Street, the ordinary sounds of a town that had never known what happened in its factory.
Miss Kramer, I'm going to give you some advice, free of charge. The Horvath case is closed. It's been closed for 7 years. The company doesn't exist anymore. The plant is empty. Everyone involved has moved on.
Everyone except Gary Horvath.
Go back to your archive. Catalogue your boxes. Let the dead stay dead.
He stood and opened the door. The meeting was over. Back at the archive, Donna started over. If the official records were sealed or redacted, she'd have to build the story from what remained. She spread the Lundgren boxes across 3 tables and began sorting by date. Time cards, production logs, shipping manifests, insurance claims. And in box 27, something she'd missed the first time. A folder labeled Night Shift Premium Disputes, 1986 to 1987. Inside were carbon copies of payroll adjustments, dozens of them, all for Saturday night shifts. Workers were claiming premium pay for hours the company said they hadn't worked.
Employee claims 12 hours premium. Payroll records show 8 hours standard. Adjustment denied.
She counted the disputes. 43 workers had filed claims between October 1986 and February 1987. 43 workers said they'd worked hours that didn't exist in the official records. And the disputes stopped abruptly on February 14th, 1987. The night Gary Horvath died. Donna pulled the time cards for the 43 workers who'd filed premium disputes. The pattern was consistent. Their cards showed standard 8-hour shifts, but the payroll disputes claimed 12. 4 extra hours every Saturday night that someone was erasing. She cross-referenced the names against the personnel files. All 43 were second-shift workers assigned to Building C. Injection molding. Gary Horvath's section.
They were all working the same area. The same nights.
She found Horvath's premium disputes in the folder. He'd filed 7 of them between October and February. 7 Saturdays where he claimed 12 hours and the company said 8. His last dispute was filed on February 7th, 1987, 1 week before he died. On the bottom of the form, in the resolution box, someone had stamped C Shop Steward. The shop steward in February 1987 was Earl Whitmore. Donna drove back to Earl Whitmore's trailer on a Tuesday afternoon. This time, she didn't knock. She sat in her car at the end of his gravel drive and waited. At 4:15, Earl came out to check his mailbox. He saw her car and stopped.
43 workers filed premium disputes, all from Building C. All stopped filing after February 14th.
Earl stood frozen, mail in hand.
Gary Horvath filed 7 disputes. His last one said, C Shop Steward. That was you, Mr. Whitmore.
You shouldn't be here.
What were they doing on those Saturday nights? 4 extra hours that didn't exist on the time cards.
Earl walked toward her car, slowly, like a man approaching something he'd rather run from.
Lady, you don't understand what you're digging into.
Then explain it to me.
Not here. There's a diner on Route 31. Marge's. I'll meet you there in an hour.
He turned and walked back inside without looking at her again. Marge's was a chrome and formica place that had been old in 1970 and hadn't changed since. Donna took a booth in the back, ordered coffee she didn't want, and waited. Earl arrived 40 minutes late, sliding into the seat across from her with the look of a man who'd spent the drive talking himself out of leaving.
You're not going to let this go, are you?
A man died, Mr. Whitmore. The records don't add up.
Records. You think records tell you anything?
I think the missing ones tell me plenty.
Earl stared at his hands on the table. Thick fingers, scarred from decades of factory work.
The Saturday shifts were off the books. Company didn't want them on the production logs.
Why?
Because what we were making wasn't supposed to exist.
The waitress approached. Earl went silent until she left.
Lundgren had a contract, defense work, classified, but they didn't have the security clearance to do it officially.
Donna leaned forward.
Defense contract. What kind of parts?
Components. Housing units for something, I never knew what exactly. They bring in the specs on Saturday nights, we'd run the molds, they'd pick up the product before dawn. No paperwork, no inspection, no OSHA.
Who's they?
I don't know, management handled that in. We just ran the machines.
And the premium pay disputes?
Company was supposed to pay us cash, under the table. Sometimes they didn't. Workers filed grievances, but the grievances couldn't reference the Saturday work, so they claimed premium hours instead. Management denied everything, round and round.
Donna's coffee had gone cold. She hadn't touched it.
What happened on February 14th?
Gary found something he shouldn't have found.
Found what?
I've said too much. Forget I was here.
He dropped a 5 on the table and walked out. Donna sat in the diner for another hour, writing down everything Earl had said. Off-books production, defense contract, components picked up before dawn. Gary found something. She needed more. The personnel files listed home addresses for all Lundgren employees as of the plant's closure in 1991. Donna started with the Building C workers, the ones who'd filed premium disputes. Most had moved, some had died. But Margaret Pruitt, line supervisor, still lived in Kokomo.
At her door, suspicious. I don't talk about Lundgren. I'm researching the factory's history for the State Archive. History. That's a nice word for it. I spoke with Earl Whitmore. He mentioned the Saturday night shifts.
Margaret's expression shifted. Not softer, but more calculating.
Earl talked to you. He told me about the off-books production, the defense contract. Earl always did have a guilty conscience. Mrs. Pruitt, what did Gary Horvath find?
Margaret Pruitt didn't invite her in. They talked on the front porch. Margaret with her arms crossed, Donna standing on the steps below.
Gary was quality control. Best eye on the line. He caught defects nobody else saw. And on February 14th, we were running a big order that night. Rush job. Someone upstairs wanted it done fast. Corners cut. Material substitution. The specs called for a high-grade polymer. Company was using something cheaper, pocketing the difference.
Donna wrote it down. Material fraud. On a defense contract.
Gary noticed. Gary noticed everything. He pulled samples, ran tests on his own time, said the substituted material wouldn't hold under stress, said the parts would fail. What did he do? He was going to report it. He told me that night before the shift started. Said he'd documented everything. Documented where? He had a notebook, kept it in his locker. Samples too, the good material and the substituted stuff, labelled and dated. What happened to the notebook? What do you think? After the accident, management cleaned out his locker before his wife could get there. Said they were securing company property. The samples? Gone. All of it. And anyone who asked questions got a visit from company lawyers, reminding them about their NDAs.
Donna's pen had stopped moving.
Mrs. Pruitt, are you saying Gary Horvath was killed because he found evidence of fraud? I'm not saying anything. I'm telling you what I saw. Gary had evidence. Gary was going to report it. Gary died in an accident that made no sense to anyone who knew him. You draw your own conclusions. Who would have known about his notebook? I knew, Earl knew, and management knew, because Gary told them he was going to the feds.
Donna looked up from her notes.
He told management directly, told the plant manager himself, Dennis Holt, the Friday before he died.
Dennis Holt. Donna found him in the Lundgren personnel files, plant manager from 1984 to 1991, when the company folded. His last known address was a retirement community in Florida, but a forwarding address led to Indianapolis. He'd moved back to Indiana in 1993. She called ahead this time. Holt agreed to meet, which surprised her. They sat in his living room, a modest apartment decorated with photos of grandchildren and a single framed picture of the Lundgren plant in its prime.
70, white-haired, calm. You want to know about Gary Horvath?
I want to know what he told you the Friday before he died.
Direct. I appreciate that. Gary told me he'd found evidence of material substitution on the defense contract. He said he was going to report it to the Department of Defense Inspector General.
And what did you do?
I told him to go ahead.
Donna hadn't expected that.
You supported him.
Ms. Kramer, I didn't authorize any material substitution. That came from above my head.
Above your head. You're saying corporate ordered the substitution.
I'm saying decisions about material sourcing were made in Chicago, not Kokomo. I ran the plant. I didn't run the company.
But you knew about it.
I suspected. The margins on that contract were too good. I asked questions. I was told to stop asking.
By whom?
Richard Lundgren, the owner. He said the contract was handled at the executive level, and I should focus on production.
Donna wrote the name down. Richard Lundgren. The man who'd built the company and, according to the records, sold it to a holding company 6 months before it went bankrupt.
What happened after Gary told you he was going to report?
I told him to be careful, to make copies of everything, to tell someone he trusted where the evidence was.
Did he?
He told his wife, Carol. He told her where the notebook was and what to do if something happened to him.
And then something happened.
The accident. Yes. And before Carol Horvath could get to the plant, before she could claim Gary's belongings, security had cleaned out his locker. On my orders, they said. But I never gave that order.
Who did?
I never found out. By the time I asked questions, the company lawyers were everywhere. They said it was liability protection. They said touching a dead employee's belongings required legal clearance. They had paperwork.
And you accepted that?
Ms. Kramer, I had 400 employees depending on that plant staying open. I had a family. I had a mortgage. I asked questions, and I was told very clearly that more questions would end my career. So I stopped asking.
Donna studied the old man's face. Guilt lived there. She could see it. 7 years of guilt.
Carol Horvath sued the company.
And settled. Fast. Too fast.
The settlement was sealed.
Of course it was. Everything about Gary's death was sealed, buried, forgotten. Except it wasn't forgotten. Not by anyone who was there.
Carol Horvath was harder to find. She'd remarried, moved to Fort Wayne, changed her name. Donna tracked her through county marriage records. Carol Horvath became Carol Brennan in 1990. The same last name as the judge who'd sealed the settlement. Donna sat with that for a long time before picking up the phone.
Who gave you this number?
Public records, Mrs. Brennan. I'm researching your first husband's death.
That was a long time ago.
Your second husband sealed the court records in your case. Judge Harold Brennan.
Silence on the line. Donna let it stretch.
What do you want?
I want to know what Gary told you before he died. About the notebook. About where the evidence was.
I can't talk about this.
The settlement prohibited you.
You don't understand. It's not about the settlement.
Then what is it about?
They told me they'd take everything. My house, my children, everything.
Donna drove to Fort Wayne the next morning. Carol Brennan lived in a well-kept colonial on a quiet street. The kind of house that said comfortable without saying wealthy. She answered the door in a cardigan and pearls, hair perfectly styled, every inch the respectable second wife.
I told you I can't talk.
Then just listen. I've spoken with Earl Whitmore, Margaret Pruitt, and Dennis Holt. I know about the defense contract. I know about the material substitution. I know Gary had evidence and was going to report it.
Carol's composure cracked just slightly. Her hand trembled on the doorframe.
I know the company took his notebook from his locker before you could get there. I know the settlement was sealed to protect someone. I'm trying to find out who. Then tell me what I'm missing.
Not here. There's a park 2 blocks east. Meet me in an hour.
She closed the door before Donna could respond. The park was small. A swing set, a bench, a few trees turning autumn colors. Carol arrived precisely on time, walking with the measured pace of someone who'd rehearsed this moment. She sat next to Donna and stared straight ahead.
Gary called me that Friday from the plant. He said if anything happened to him, I should go to his locker immediately and take the notebook. He said the key was in his wallet.
What happened?
They called me at 11:30 that Saturday night. Said there'd been an accident. By the time I got to the plant, his locker was empty. They said they'd turned his personal effects over to me, but they hadn't. The notebook wasn't there. His wallet wasn't there.
Did you tell anyone?
I told everyone. The police, the union, the company. Everyone said the same thing. There was no notebook. There were no samples. Gary must have been confused.
She turned to look at Donna for the first time.
But Gary was never confused. Not about anything.
What happened with the lawsuit?
I hired a lawyer. Filed a wrongful death suit. The company's lawyers came back with a settlement offer in 2 weeks. $200,000, plus Gary's life insurance. But I had to sign an NDA. I had to agree never to discuss the circumstances of his death.
And the sealing motion?
That came from the union. They said it was to protect me, to protect the other workers. If the details came out, they said, everyone could lose their jobs.
You believed them.
Donna nodded slowly.
And Judge Brennan?
Harold was the union's lawyer before he became a judge. He handled workers' comp cases. We met during the settlement proceedings.
He didn't recuse himself from sealing his future wife's case?
We weren't dating then. Not officially.
Donna let the silence speak. Carol's face was pale.
What do you want from me, Ms. Kramer?
I want to know who benefited from Gary's death.
Follow the insurance.
Gary's policy was upgraded 6 weeks before he died.
Not just Gary's. 3 other workers in Building C had their policies upgraded that same month. Same amounts, same timing.
Donna's pen stopped.
3 others?
Tom Hennessy, Ruth Kowalski, Pete Lawson. All second shift. All Building C.
What happened to them?
Nothing. They're all still alive. They got upgraded policies and then nothing happened to them. Just Gary.
Donna wrote the names down. 3 workers who should have died but didn't. Or 3 workers who were supposed to be the story, the distraction, while something else happened to Gary.
Do you know where they are now?
Ruth died in '92. Cancer. Tom moved to Arizona. Pete still lives in Kokomo, but he won't talk to you.
Why not?
Because Pete was the one who found Gary's body. And Pete has never been the same since.
Pete Lawson lived in a house that had been neglected for years. Paint peeling, gutters sagging, lawn more weeds than grass. He answered the door in a bathrobe at 2 p.m., eyes red-rimmed, the smell of whiskey drifting out behind him.
Who are you?
My name is Donna Kramer. I'm researching what happened at Lundgren Plastics.
Lundgren. That's a word I don't want to hear.
I'm sorry to disturb you, Mr. Lawson, but I need to know what you saw the night Gary Horvath died.
Pete's hand gripped the doorframe. His knuckles went white.
What I saw. What I saw was a man crushed in a machine he knew better than his own hands. What I saw was blood on the floor and parts that used to be a person.
The official report says he bypassed the safety interlock.
Gary never bypassed anything. Gary was the most careful man on that floor.
Then how did it happen?
It didn't just happen. Someone made it happen.
Donna stepped back as Pete swayed in the doorway.
Mr. Lawson, can I come in?
Nobody comes in. Not anymore.
Then tell me here. What did you see?
I was coming back from break. 11:20. The press was running normal cycle. Gary wasn't at his station. I figured he was in the bathroom.
Where was his station?
Quality control bench, 10 feet from the press. He'd pull samples, test them, log the results.
Pete's eyes went distant, seeing something 7 years gone.
I heard the press cycle wrong. Wrong sound. Like it was hitting something it shouldn't. I ran over and
He stopped. His whole body was shaking now.
the interlock was disabled. I could see the bypass. Someone had wired around it.
Who would know how to do that?
Anyone who'd worked that line more than a year. It wasn't hard, just illegal.
Did you tell the investigators?
I told everyone. Nobody listened.
The OSHA report says the interlock was functional.
The OSHA report is a lie. I saw the bypass with my own eyes. I told the investigator, I told the union, I told the company lawyers.
What did they say?
They said I was traumatized, said I was confused, said I needed counseling. They sent me to a company doctor who put me on pills that made me forget my own name.
His voice dropped to a whisper.
By the time I could think straight again, the press was gone, replaced, and everyone was telling me I imagined the bypass.
You didn't imagine it.
No, I didn't.
Mr. Lawson, why were you and 3 others given upgraded insurance policies 6 weeks before Gary died?
Pete's face went blank. Then slowly, terribly, it crumbled.
Because we were supposed to be the ones who had the accident, not Gary. We were the ones who knew about the night shifts. Gary was in the wrong place.
Donna drove back to the archive, with Pete Lawson's words echoing in her head. The insurance upgrades weren't about Gary. They were about covering up future accidents for the workers who knew about the Saturday night shifts. Gary wasn't the target. He was collateral damage. He'd stumbled onto the material fraud and threatened to expose it at the worst possible moment. She spread her notes across the archive table and began to build the timeline.
October 1986. Defense contract begins. Saturday night production starts. Workers aren't paid properly. File premium disputes. January 1987. 4 workers get upgraded insurance policies. 3 who know about the night shifts. 1 who's quality control.
She wrote faster.
February 7th. Gary Horvath files his last premium dispute. Same week, he discovers material substitution. February 13th. Gary tells Dennis Holt he's going to the feds. February 14th. Gary dies in an accident. Locker cleaned out before his wife arrives. Notebook disappears. Evidence gone.
She stared at the timeline. Something was still missing. The insurance company. Donna had been focused on the workers, on the plant, on the union, but someone had authorized those policy upgrades. Someone had processed the claims. She pulled the insurance file from Box 27. Metropolitan Mutual of Indiana. Company Policy Administrator, Kenneth Boyle. She found Boyle in the Indianapolis phone directory. He was still in the insurance business, working for a different company now. She called his office.
On phone, cautious. Lundgren Plastics. That's a name from the past.
You administered their group policy in 1987.
Among others. What's your interest?
4 workers received policy upgrades in January 1987. Same amounts, same timing. Who authorized those upgrades?
I'd have to check the records.
Mr. Boyle, one of those workers died 6 weeks after the upgrade. The claim was paid in 3 days.
Miss Kramer, I think you should come to my office.
Kenneth Boyle's office was in a high-rise downtown, the kind of building that had been modern in 1975 and now just looked tired. He was a round man in his 60s, with the careful manner of someone who'd spent a career handling other people's money and misery.
I pulled the Lundgren file after you called. The policy upgrades you mentioned were authorized by the company's CFO, man named Walter Phelps.
Walter Phelps.
He's dead now. Heart attack in '89. But he signed off on the upgrades personally. That was unusual. Normally, HR handled routine policy changes.
And the Horvath claim? 3 days seems fast.
It was expedited.
By whom?
By me. On instructions from Walter Phelps.
Donna let that sit.
You expedited a death claim on instructions from the same person who upgraded the policy 6 weeks earlier.
Meeting her eyes. I've wondered about that for 7 years. Never had anyone to tell.
Tell me now.
Phelps called me the morning after the accident. Said there was going to be a claim and he wanted it processed immediately. Said the family needed the money. I thought it was compassion. Unusual for a CFO, but not impossible.
But
when I processed the claim, I noticed the upgrade. 4 workers, same day, same amounts. Company-wide upgrades usually happen annually, not randomly in January. I asked Phelps about it.
what did he say?
He said it was part of a retention program. Said those workers had specialized skills. Said the company wanted to make sure they stayed.
Donna wrote it down.
Did you believe him?
At the time, yes. But after Horvath died, I started thinking. 4 workers get upgraded policies. 1 dies in an accident. The other 3, nothing happens to them. Why upgrade all 4 if only 1 was at risk?
Unless they didn't know which one would need to have the accident.
Facebook pale. That's what I've been afraid of for 7 years.
Back at the archive, Donna assembled the final pieces. Walter Phelps, CFO. Richard Lundgren, owner. Dennis Holt, plant manager who'd been warned to stop asking questions. Raymond Sisk, union lawyer who'd sealed the records. Judge Harold Brennan, who'd granted the seal and later married the widow. Earl Whitmore, shop steward who'd known about the Saturday shifts. Kenneth Boyle, insurance administrator who'd processed a suspicious claim. She wrote it all on a legal pad, drawing lines between names.
Richard Lundgren approved the defense contract. Walter Phelps managed the finances. They substituted cheaper materials, pocketed the difference. The Saturday night shifts were off the books to avoid inspections. When Gary Horvath found evidence of the fraud, they killed him and made it look like an accident.
She stopped. Something still didn't fit.
But Lundgren sold the company 6 months before it went bankrupt. He got out clean. Why would he risk murder when he was already planning to walk away?
Donna pulled the corporate records from Box 41. Lundgren Plastics had been sold to Meridian Holdings in August 1987, 6 months after Horvath's death. Meridian was a shell company registered in Delaware. No employees, no products, just a legal entity that existed to hold other companies. The sale price was listed as confidential, but a note in the margin referenced contingent valuation based on contract fulfillment. The defense contract. The sale depended on completing the defense contract. If the fraud was exposed, if the DoD pulled the contract, the sale would fall through.
Gary Horvath wasn't just a threat to the fraud, he was a threat to the sale. Richard Lundgren's entire exit strategy depended on keeping him quiet.
She found Richard Lundgren's current address in a business directory. He was living in Carmel, the wealthy suburb north of Indianapolis. Chairman emeritus of 3 corporate boards. Philanthropist. Pillar of the community.
And possibly a murderer.
She picked up the phone. Richard Lundgren's secretary said he didn't take calls from strangers. Donna said she was calling about the Horvath estate. The secretary put her through in 30 seconds.
Ms. Kramer, my secretary said you have questions about an old employee matter.
I have questions about Gary Horvath's death.
That was a tragedy. A terrible accident.
I don't think it was an accident, Mr. Lundgren. I think Gary Horvath discovered you were defrauding the Department of Defense, and I think he was killed to keep him quiet.
The line was silent for a long moment.
Those are serious allegations.
I have documentation. Premium disputes showing off-books production. Insurance upgrades authorized by your CFO 6 weeks before Horvath died. A claim processed in 3 days on a death that made no mechanical sense. An eyewitness who saw the safety interlock bypassed.
Who have you talked to?
Everyone who was willing to talk. And some who weren't.
Ms. Kramer, I think we should meet in person.
The meeting was set for Richard Lundgren's office in Carmel, a converted farmhouse that had been turned into a corporate suite, all exposed beams and designer furniture that probably cost more than Donna made in a year. Lundgren himself was 75, silver-haired, with the easy confidence of a man who'd never been told no. He didn't stand when she entered.
You've been busy, Ms. Kramer.
I've been doing my job.
Your job is cataloging old records, not investigating closed cases.
My job is labor history, understanding what happened to working people. Gary Horvath was a working person who died because he tried to do the right thing.
Gary Horvath died because he was careless. The investigation proved that. And you think you found the truth?
I know I have.
Donna pulled a folder from her bag and set it on Lundgren's desk.
Here's what happened. You had a defense contract you couldn't fulfill legitimately, so you ran off-books production on Saturday nights. You substituted cheaper materials to increase your margins. When Gary Horvath discovered the fraud and threatened to report it, you had him killed. You used the insurance upgrades to create a plausible accident scenario, then cleaned out his locker to destroy the evidence. Your CFO expedited the insurance claim to satisfy the widow quickly. Your lawyer sealed the settlement to prevent any further investigation. And 6 months later, you sold the company to a shell corporation and walked away clean.
Lundgren's face was unreadable.
The only thing I can't prove is who actually disabled the safety interlock. But I don't need to prove it. I just need to publish what I've found.
And what exactly do you think you'll publish?
Everything. The premium disputes, the insurance upgrades, the eyewitness testimony, the expedited claim, the sealed settlement. All of it.
Ms. Kramer, you have no idea what you're dealing with.
Lundgren pressed a button on his phone.
Send in Mr. Sisk.
The door opened. Raymond Sisk, the union lawyer, walked in. He looked older than he had in his office, more tired, but his eyes were sharp.
Miss Kramer, I told you to let this go.
And I told you I wanted the truth.
The truth. The truth is that Gary Horvath died in an industrial accident. The truth is that his family was compensated. The truth is that everyone involved has moved on.
The truth is that you killed a man to protect your profits, and you've spent 7 years making sure no one could prove it.
Sisk stepped forward.
Miss Kramer, if you publish any of this, you will be sued for defamation. The settlement agreement includes confidentiality provisions that extend to anyone who receives information from parties to the agreement.
I didn't receive information from Carol Horvath. I found it in your own records.
She picked up her folder.
The Lundgren archives are state property now. Everything in them is public record. You can't seal what's already public.
She walked out. Behind her, she heard Lundgren's voice, cold and furious.
This isn't over.
But it was. 2 weeks later, Donna Kramer's article appeared in the Indiana Historical Review. It documented everything. The off-books production, the material fraud, the insurance manipulation, the suspicious death, the coordinated cover-up. The Department of Justice opened an investigation. Richard Lundgren died of a stroke 3 months later, before charges could be filed. Raymond Sisk was disbarred for his role in the settlement. The Horvath case was never officially reopened. The original ruling of accidental death remained on the books. But everyone who read the article knew the truth. And sometimes, for a labor historian cataloging old records in a basement archive, that has to be enough.